If the Empire has this kind of power, what chance do we have?
What chance do we have? The question is what choice? Run, hide, plead for mercy, scatter your forces. You give way to an enemy this evil with this much power, and you condemn the galaxy to an eternity of submission. The time to fight is now!
Quiet on the set!
This is Michael Faulkner, and it is showtime at the December 13th, 2016 edition of the Weekly Podioplex, brought to you on the Chronic Rift Network. This week's birthdays include Haley Steinfeld from Ender's Game and True Grit, Jennifer Connelly, Betty Ross in the first Hulk film, Dick Van Dyke, a legend with so many different roles, Miranda Hart, most recently from Spy, Charlie Cox, Matt Murdock in Daredevil, Kristen Ritter, Jessica Jones in the series of the same name, and Mila Jovovich, Lilu Dallas Multipass from The Fifth Element. Starting with the box office report, they tried to take down Disney, and they failed. At number 10 is Hacksaw Ridge, down 3 from 7th. At number 9 is Trolls, down 3 from 6th. At 8th is Manchester by the Sea, up 3 from 11th. In 7th is Nocturnal Animals, up 9 from 16th. And finishing out this week's bottom 5 is Allied, down 2 from 4th. The top 5 this week begin with Doctor Strange, holding steady with $4.5 million, added to a total of $222.3 million. In 4th place is Arrival, down 1 from 3rd with $5.6 million, added to a total of $81.4 million. In 3rd place is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, down 1 from 2nd with $10.4 million and a total of $199 million. Seriously, $1 million more. You couldn't have managed that. I guess not. In 2nd is the only new release in the top 10, Office Christmas Party, debuting to $16.9 million. That's on the same level as 2016's other R-rated comedies, How to Be Single and Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates, and this may possibly hold this one over for the rest of the year as more serious fare comes to bear. Mostly older male audiences gave the flick a B cinema score, but critics only managed a 43% approval rating. In first for a 3rd week is Moana, earning a box office turkey with $18.5 million and a total of $144.7 million. Let's close out the box office report with a look at what was winning in years gone by. 5 years ago in 2011, Sherlock Holmes, A Game of Shadows took number 1 with $39.6 million. 10 years ago in 2006, The Pursuit of Happiness won the weekend with $26.5 million. 20 years ago in 1996, Jerry Maguire was the winner with $17.1 million. 30 years ago in 1986, The Golden Child took the title with $11.5 million. And 40 years ago in 1976, Silver Streak took the box office crown with $5.9 million, breaking Young Frankenstein's record for the highest weekend debut for a comedy film. The box office premieres for December 16th begin with a return to the galaxy far, far away. This week's headliner is Rogue One, a Star Wars story. An action-adventure film starring Felicity Jones, Diego Luna, and Alan Tudyk.
Why does she get a blaster and I don't?
What?
I know how to use it.
That's what I'm afraid of. Give it to me.
We're going to Jeddah. That's a war zone.
That's not the point of it. Where'd you get it?
I found it.
I find that answer vague and unconvincing.
Trust goes both ways.
You're letting her keep it. Would you like to know the probability of her using it against you? It's high.
Let's get going.
It's very high.
The rebellion makes a risky move to steal the plans for the Death Star, setting up the epic saga to follow. The sequel to this movie is 1977's Star Wars: A New Hope. Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, is rated PG-13. The other title this week is Collateral Beauty, a drama starring Will Smith, Edward Norton, and Kate Winslet.
They grieve. Dogs. They grieve and they fully understand death. You called me a paper tiger. In the letter you wrote me, you said I was pathetic. You don't remember? You went on about middle management, making a deal, paper tiger. Oh, Howard, it wasn't that long ago.
Where did you get that? Who are you?
Who did you write the letter to?
I wrote the letter to Death.
Nice to meet you. They're charmed, I'm sure.
Nope.
Retreating from life after a tragedy, a man questions the universe by writing to love, time, and death. Receiving unexpected answers, he begins to see how these things interlock and how even loss can reveal moments of meaning and beauty. Collateral Beauty is rated PG-13. There are also 4 titles on this week's limited slate, and you can find those in the show notes. Next up is a look at the home entertainment slate for the week of December 13th, and I'll kick things off with new release on DVD and Blu-ray, and that list begins with Suicide Squad, an action-adventure film starring Will Smith, Margot Robbie, and Joel Kinnaman. The U.S. government forms a team of supervillains to pull off extremely difficult missions in return for shorter prison sentences. Suicide Squad is rated PG-13. The second title is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, a fantasy film starring Ava Green, Asa Butterfield, and Samuel L. Jackson. A teenager finds himself transported to an island where he must help protect a group of orphans with special powers from creatures out to destroy them. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children is rated PG-13. The third title is Ben-Hur, a fantasy film starring Jack Huston, Morgan Freeman, and Nazanin Boniadi. This is the epic story of Judah Ben-Hur, a prince falsely accused of treason by his adopted brother Messala, an officer in the Roman army. Stripped of his title, separated from his family and the woman he loves, Judah is forced into slavery. After years at sea, Judah returns to his homeland to seek revenge, but an encounter with Jesus leads him to the crucifixion, where he discovers forgiveness and finds redemption. Ben-Hur is rated PG-13. Number 4 on the list is Florence Foster Jenkins, a comedic biographical drama starring Rebecca Ferguson, Meryl Streep, and Hugh Grant. This is the story of Florence Foster Jenkins, a New York heiress who dreamed of becoming an opera singer despite having a terrible singing voice. Florence Foster Jenkins is rated PG-13. And the fifth title is Bridget Jones's Baby, a romantic comedy starring Renee Zellweger, Patrick Dempsey, and Colin Firth. After breaking up with Mark Darcy, Bridget Jones's happily ever after hasn't quite gone according to plan. 40-something and single once again, she decides to focus on her job as a top news producer and surround herself with old friends and new. For once, Bridget has everything completely under control. What could possibly go wrong? Bridget Jones's Baby is rated R. Swinging by new releases on digital video, I have one title there. That's Snowden, a biographical drama starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Shailene Woodley, and Scott Eastwood. CIA employee Edward Snowden leaks thousands of classified documents to the press. Snowden is rated R. Moving right along to TV on DVD and Blu-ray, we start things there with Star Trek, The Roddenberry Vault. Spanning 1966 to 1969 and starring William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, and DeForest Kelley. From the cutting room floor to your living room. During the production of Star Trek the original series, bits and pieces of footage were left on the cutting room floor, then stored away in film cans for decades by the Gene Roddenberry estate. Now, in celebration of the show's 50th anniversary, the Roddenberry Vault has finally been opened. Along with 12 of their favorite episodes, fans can see and own behind-the-scenes footage from the making of the series, as well as alternate takes, deleted scenes, omitted dialogue, outtakes, and original visual FX elements. Episodes on this Blu-ray collection include The Corbomite Maneuver, Arena, Space Seed, This Side of Paradise, The Devil in the Dark, The City on the Edge of Forever, Operation Annihilate, Metamorphosis, Who Mourns for Adonai, Mirror Mirror, The Trouble with Tribbles, and Return to Tomorrow. The second TV title is The Legend of Korra, the complete series, spanning 2012 to 2014 and starring Janet Varney, David Faustino, and Seychelle Gabriel. This hit Nickelodeon series follows the events of Avatar: The Last Airbender. The next Avatar, a waterbender named Korra from the Southern Water Tribe, journeys to Republic City to master airbending, as well as make a name for herself and stop a rising threat from a group of revolutionaries known as the Equalists. The third title is Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, Season 1 from 2016, starring Samuel Barnett, Elijah Wood, and Hannah Marks. Corpses, cops, trap, cult, assassins, pararibulitis, vampires, lottery ticket, kitten, corgi, everything is connected. Welcome to the world of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, a trippy mystery that thrusts a reluctant sidekick into the bizarre world of an unconventional detective who believes in the interconnectedness of all things. The final TV title this week is Fear the Walking Dead, Season 2 from 2016, starring Kim Dickens, Cliff Curtis, and Frank Delane. What did the world look like as it was transforming into the horrifying apocalypse depicted in The Walking Dead? This spin-off set in Los Angeles, following new characters as they face the beginning of the end of the world, will answer that question. I'll wrap up the Homertainment slate with Blu-rays from the past, and this week I bring you one title. That's The Asphalt Jungle, a noir crime drama from 1950 starring Sterling Hayden, Lewis Calhoun, and Gene Hagen. A gang of small-time crooks plots an elaborate jewel heist. The Asphalt Jungle is not rated. After this brief break for about a shameless podcast cross-promotion, the Weekly Podioplex will continue.
Hi, this is the Mike Pilot.
And this is Brian Young with the Full of Sith podcast.
And let me tell you something about Full of Sith. It is one of the best Star Wars podcasts you're ever going to hear. Wait, just podcasts in general, but it's Star Wars related. You should listen.
And once those droids take control of the surface, they will take control of you.
Full of Sith Star Wars podcast. You can check us out on iTunes or fullofsith.com. May the Force be with you. Always.
welcome back to the Weekly Podioplex. I'm Denise with your Quick Flicks. In book-to-movie news, A Child's Night Dream, written by filmmaker Oliver Stone, Snowden, Platoon, Natural Born Killers, is getting the big screen treatment from Sean Stone, his son. According to Deadline, Sean Stone has decided it is time to make both his filmmaking and his father's written work more familiar to audiences everywhere. I personally had no idea Oliver Stone had even written a book, so this is news to both me and you. Yay! The 31-year-old Stone is set to take on both writing and directorial duties of A Child's Night Dream. The novel was published in the late 90s and deals with the experiences Stone's faced as a soldier. Though the book deals with the father's experiences as a 19-year-old soldier in the Vietnam War, the movie will be set in the aftermath of 9/11. The younger Stone said, "My own high school and early college years informed the script and helped it evolve from a time period my father set it in. The themes included understanding my own relationship to my parents, my first crush, and the backdrop of 9/11 and the Iraq War." This will not be the younger Stone's first directorial debut. He is known for co-directing the 2007 documentary Nuremberg, the 60th Anniversary Director's Cut, as well as writing and directing the 2012 horror film Greystone Park. Stone also says he's been working on the script for A Child's Night Dream since he was 15 years old. This is definitely something to look out for, I think, especially given who the father and writer of the book is. One hopes the two will work closely together to bring the page to the screen, even with a generation gap between wars. And in more comic book to movie news, we're getting another Tomb Raider movie. I had no idea we needed another Tomb Raider movie, but apparently the guys up in Hollywood said we did, so we're getting one, and Walton Goggins has been cast as a villain in a movie which sees Laura searching for her father. Directed by Roar Uthag and starring Alicia Vikander, the movie promises to bring something new and fresh to both role and potential Lara Croft franchise, because let's be honest, it's what the studio is hoping for. Don't get me wrong! I am all for Lara Croft, but in the video game world. The Angelina movies were exercises in how long I could keep my eyes open without going back to sleep. Also in the comic book world, Iron Fist showrunner says Danny Rand is not a white savior. Ever since the announcement of an Iron Fist television adaptation, there has been movement to get an Asian American actor to play the titular role. There was a petition which garnered a lot of support. However, when it became clear Marvel was in no way going to entertain the idea, worry grew about the default Hollywood role for white men in any lead role, the white savior. For those of you listening who are unfamiliar with the archetype, the white savior is a trope by which a white character rescues people of color from their plight. The trope has a long, extensive history in U.S. cinema, wherein he or she is portrayed as a messianic figure who learns something about his or herself in the course of rescuing non-white characters. This is usually accomplished by presenting abstract concepts such as morality as innate characteristics, racial and cultural, of white people, rather than characteristics innate to people of color. The white savior character usually is a man who is out of place within his own society until he assumes the burden of racial leadership in order to rescue non-white foreigners and minorities from their plights. If this sounds like a bunch of movies you've seen over the years, Avatar, Glory Road, Dangerous Minds, Amistad, Finding Forrester, The Last Samurai, I can literally continue on with this list, but I won't because this podcast isn't long enough. It's because Hollywood has a white guy is always right fetish. Showrunner Scott Buck recently spoke to Gadget 360, where he was asked about avoiding this archetype in the series. Buck admits to not being very familiar with the character before taking the job, but reaffirms that Danny's mission is to save himself and not be the master of martial arts. He said, "When Marvel came to me with this idea, I'd never heard of Iron Fist or Danny Rand. I'd never read the comics. What Marvel TV had Jeff Loeb pitch me specifically was this character Danny Rand, and that was the story that pulled me in. That intrigued me. So the other aspects I only learned about afterward, and I can say most definitely Danny Rand is no white savior. He's trying to save himself, if anything." Even Iron Fist cast members have spoken out about the lack of hero roles for ethnic actors. Here's hoping that Scott Buck's comments will prove to be the truth and Marvel will open their ears wide to their fan base. With the diversity in comics, you'd think television would catch up and start casting ethnic actors in the hero roles. This world ain't all white, you know? In animated news, the world of Pixar is expanding in a huge way. Coco is Pixar's next original movie, and it's the sole new film for the studio as production ramps up for Cars 3 and The Incredibles 2 and Toy Story 4. Since Coco's 2004 announcement, little has been known about the film other than its central themes. It takes place in Mexico on the annual holiday of Dia de los Muertos. Now, EW is revealing additional details about the music pack, but let's not call it a musical, film. Benjamin Bratt and Garcia Bernal will lead Coco alongside newcomer Anthony Gonzalez, who will voice the film's main character, a 12-year-old Mexican boy named Miguel. Coco follows the secret musical ambitions of Miguel, who resides in a lively, loud Mexican village, but who comes from a family of shoemakers and is quite possibly the town's only music-hating family around. The family believes they have been cursed by music because Miguel's great-great-grandfather left his own wife to pursue his musical goals, leaving Imelda, the great-great-grandmother, to take control as the matriarch of the now thriving Rivera line and declare music dead now and forever. But Miguel harbors a secret desire to seize his musical moment, inspired by his favorite singer of all time, the late Ernesto de la Cruz. It's only after Miguel discovers an amazing link between himself and De La Cruz that he takes action to emulate his favorite singer and winds up in the land of the dead, where he meets his Rivera ancestors, including great-great-grandma, Imelda. Still, being in the land of the dead, he decides to wander around and find his singer hero. Aided by a feisty spirit Hector, Miguel seeks out De La Cruz and his family's blessing to perform, then return to the land of the living before time runs out. Sounds great, right? And according to Pixar, it was important to them that they had an all-Latino cast. Following in Moana's footsteps, it sounds like Coco is off to a great start. And because it's Pixar, you know there's going to be tears 5 minutes into the movie. Remember Up? That's right. I went there. You remember Up. And finally, jumping over to science fiction, Blade Runner 2 may not reveal if Deckard is a replicant. According to the playlist, director Denis Villeneuve spoke at length to French publication Allociné and told them that Blade Runner 2049 will not necessarily address the ambiguity surrounding Deckard's humanity or possibly his lack thereof. Make no mistake, there will be fan theories, especially considering that Nexus 6 replicants were made to survive within a lot of 4-year lifespan. And never mind that whole implanted memories thing where a replicant doesn't actually know they're a replicant because they have the memories and reaction of a human, but whatever, I'm sure he's human and junk. Wait. Okay, isn't there a whole theory about whether Deckard is a replicant? Isn't that a thing? I mean, I've never actually read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, and I saw the movie at a young enough age to think that it was super cool, really weird, and that Indiana Jones was in a movie about androids. It wasn't until I was older that I understood the replicant thing, so I sort of missed out on the fan club there. So tell us in the comments, is Deckard a human, or is he a replicant? Alright guys, that's it for me on this week's Podioplex. Join me next time. See you later!
Thank you, Denise. With that, we come to the end of this week's edition of the Weekly Podioplex. If you want to discuss anything you heard on this week's edition, please take a moment to get in touch. You can surf on over to the brand new homepage at chronicrift.com and leave an audio message right there on the website using your microphone. Or you can write to weeklypodioplex@gmail.com. Of course, you can still tweet us on Twitter. The Chronic Rift is Chronic_Rift. The Weekly Podioplex is Weekly Podioplex. Denise is Riley James Keith. And I am Womprat99, like the creature Luke with Bullseye in his T-16 in Beggar's Canyon. You can give the Chronic Rift a thumbs up on Stitcher Radio, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, and you can find the Weekly Podioplex and the Chronic Rift on Facebook and Google+. Take a moment, stop on by, and see what other shows the Chronic Rift Network has to offer. We have Cyborgs, a Bionic podcast, the Batcave podcast, the OSI Files podcast, the G2V podcast, Generations Geek, presenting the transcription feature, the Dan and Travis Show, the Sci-Fi Diner podcast, and so much more. Check us out and find the culture in pop culture. If you're interested in more of my adventures, you can take a quick trip to my blog, Creative Criticality, where I'm watching every episode of Doctor Who for the first time from the very beginning of the franchise, and reviewing those episodes in the Timestamps Project. Right now, I'm in the middle of the 15th season with the adventures of the 4th Doctor. In fact, I'm just about ready to say goodbye to Leela, unfortunately. And the link to those reviews can be found in the show notes. You can also find Creative Criticality on Facebook. Denise can also be found on the internet at Accessories Not Included, where she talks about her writing, reviews books, and offers her services as a cover designer. Check her out at accessoriesnotincluded.com. If you decide to pick up any of this week's new releases, why not do it through our Amazon store? You get the newest entertainment at Amazon's low prices and high-quality service, and each purchase you make at that store supports the Chronic Rift Network. With the holidays fast approaching, we would love to be your gateway to gift giving, and your support keeps us on the air. We appreciate your consideration. Look for the links to our best bets and the network store in our show notes, or click the Amazon box on the website. The Weekly Podioplex is a Lucky Shot production and is produced by John S. Drew. On behalf of Denise and John, this is Michael Wagner. Thanks for listening. Until next time, there are adventures and drama, comedy and action, worlds to explore in the depths of film. Get some popcorn, find your favorite seat, and hopefully I'll see you at Rogue One, a Star Wars story.